save! Mercy, what a stop!
My goodness, what a save!
What a save! What a glove save there, but what a stop! Looked like a sure goal. You talk about an A+ save and maybe the save of the night.
Welcome to the Goalie Science Podcast, where we break down the science of goaltending, coaching, and everything in between. I'm Dr. Jamie Phillips, former professional goalie, board-certified physical therapist, and goalie performance specialist, alongside my co-host, Derek Boujan, owner of Boujan Goaltending and On Ice Hockey Performance Center. Whether you're on your way to a game, gearing up for practice, or just tuning in, grab your favorite drink, and let's drop the puck on this week's episode. Welcome to another episode of the Goalie Science Podcast, episode 115, I think. We are joined by Elliot Siskins and Dr. Sagerman. Derek Boujan again mysteriously gets ill every time there's an interview and needs to be hanging, which is typical of him. But Elliot, Dr. Sagerman, thanks for joining us, or I guess joining me. Before we begin, everyone knows Dr. Sagerman, the vision guy. He's happened two episodes so far. But Elliot, please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, and tell us why you decided to go to Michigan, which was a bad light decision.
I'm Elliot. I'm an associate brand manager of Goalie at Bauer. So I help manage the goalie category and all the products come out, working closely with our RD&D team. And yes, I did go to Northern Michigan University, not Michigan Tech.
It's okay. We all make mistakes in life, and probably the biggest one you can make is being a wildcat. This is actually a question I ever asked you. How did you go from school into work with Bauer?
Yeah, so I worked retail in hockey shops in high school and actually through college. So, as a lot of goalies are, I was always a gear nerd, always really into it, and learned a bunch about, player and goalie gear when I was working retail, and really wanted to stay in the business. But my degree was in marketing. So kept working retail for a little bit after college, and then eventually got a job in marketing, in non-sports related, mostly worked with tech companies and manufacturing companies. So I got some kind of business experience doing that, and then found my way back into hockey through this job with Bauer.
Sure, nice. We'll get right into it. We got the hard hitting questions. You guys feel like I'm left out a little bit of a mask hanging. Ackerman's got abdomen muscles and has.
I got here too. I'm just too wide for the field here.
So I'm going to open it up to Dr. Ackerman in 1 second. But the first question I have is, why different levels of masks? I feel like that's a big one. Like, people will go into the store and they'll see like a 940, 930, 960. Like back in the day, there was the ME9, the different levels. And if you get confusing, so why the different, like obviously different price point, but are there differences? What's the main draw? How does the parent of a goalie decide what mask is right for them?
Yeah, so really it comes down to the materials that we are able to put in the mask, obviously at each price point. So our entry-level mask is going to be that 930. That's a, polycarbonate shell, and just some basic foams in there. So it's good for, a beginner goalie just starting out, just as, your first entry-level goal mask. But then as we move up into our 940 line, you're finally going to get a full fiberglass shell. So it's going to be a lot stiffer of a shell, and you're going to get some slightly upgraded foam. That's kind of, the way masks have been made for the last 30 years, fiberglass and foam. That's even how, a lot of mask manufacturers still make them. But then as we get into our 950 or 960, that's when you get some of our more high-tech materials. Now Craybon with our newest line, but we've kind of been, pushing that into new composites there. And so you're getting those higher quality shell materials and higher quality foams, just for better impact protections.
Is there so there's a difference, is there a gap in the protection? Like, let's just say, you're a U16 player and you hop on with a 930. Is that like is there a safety concern between the different levels of masks?
I mean, I don't know if I'm qualified to say what is safe or unsafe, but I would certainly say, the higher your level of play, the nicer mask I would recommend that you purchase for sure.
And what are those that, Jim? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
No, you go ahead.
You might use the hand.
Yeah,
One yeah, sorry. One of the things that Jamie and I have been talking about, before, kind of offline when he told me you were coming in was, I think as a goalie parent coming up, it was hard for me to judge, what the caliber of mask needed to be for the level. And I said, it'd be nice if there was some kind of database where, kids at a certain level, certain age tend to shoot a certain amount and then a certain speed. And then based on that, be it kind of a mask recommendation. Like, your house league 9-year-old isn't that 930 is probably an adequate mask for that. But you get into a triple A 9-year-old and it's probably not close to being, right?
Mhm.
So, like, I found that to be an area that was really tough as a parent to find a where do I slot my kid in?
Yeah, so again, obviously, like I said, whatever mask you choose is personal, but kind of how we um segment our masks is we would consider our 930 like a recreational level mask. So like I said, kind of, a beginner goalie, like your first goalie mask, it's a good introduction. We would consider our 940 like a performance level mask. So once you're getting into some more competitive play, that fiberglass shell is a big upgrade over that polycarbonate. And that's kind of going to be where, you can get some of those maybe younger double A or older house league kids are probably comfortable in that mask. And then our 950 and our 960 are kind of what we consider our elite level masks, where, you can get into those high school caliber shots probably are fine with a 950. And then, when you get into that like junior level, college level pros, that's who's all going to be wearing that 960.
There's about I want any sort of um like almost like a size chart, like a mass chart or a level chart in order to help parents and the goalies kind of make a little bit more of an informed decision rather than make a decision based on price point. Because I know like well, for actually it's wild. I saw the first time I saw Colby wearing one of those football guardians because she was playing. She was playing U14 girls tier two, but then she went to one of those like college skates where the colleges they get all the kids together and they play, and actually that's a big step up. And she at the time she would I believe she was wearing a 930, so they put on the guardian cap. But if you like I don't even know what my question was, but what other resources available, I guess, to help make those decisions?
Yeah, I mean, obviously your trusted, local retailer is always what we recommend going into and getting fitted. Especially if it's someone that carries a lot of goalie masks. They usually have some pretty knowledgeable staff, and they'll be very helpful, as far as getting what you might deem appropriate for that age level. But at the end of the day, it's up to the goalie and up to the parent on what they're going to feel most comfortable in.
That makes sense. So with with last like episode of the Doctor Care Me, it was a lot of concussions and like TB or brain injuries and things and how that affects vision. And so we found that sometimes we get concussions, whether that's a puck to the face, whether that's a body or a knee to the face. Question about mask design. Is it the foam? How much role does the foam play into it versus the hard shell in terms of force distribution and all those things?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit of both. I think foam is kind of where we've been focusing a lot of our investment in. Even like there's a lot of pro goalies even that, like I said, still just use a fiberglass shell and just basic VU foam, um, because they just like the fit of it or whatever. But our investment in advancements in like our defense cloud tech and our pour on foam have definitely been shown in our testing to be much better at force absorption. But then also our shell materials like our Craybon, like I was saying, has been the newest one in our 960, but we've had different ones along the way. Those have been actually able to help dampen impacts and vibration from the puck itself. So kind of taking some of that vibration immediately out the shell. And then the foam is kind of what is more of the protective piece. But that shell can take the brunt of the impact. So it's definitely a combination of both.
And do you find that like the approach to goalie helmets and player helmets is really different? Because like my son, I have twins, so one of them, he's got the Bauer helmet with the React, the liner that helps the helmet kind of float on you while you're taking an impact and kind of takes some of that torsion off the head itself. Um, and I saw that Bauer's got a new more of a custom foam where the foam internally for the player helmets can be adjusted to match the head. Like, is that a different kind of approach from what is going on in the goalie helmet? Or, like, do the technologies cross over? Or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a little bit of technology sharing within the company, and seeing what we might think applies cross categories, but the impacts are definitely different. For a goalie mask, our main concern is puck impacts, and especially frontal puck impacts. So that's why, obviously a mask is shaped the way it is to deflect pucks out and away. And so there aren't as many, head-on collisions necessarily. Did you have something, Jamie?
Oh no, sorry. I usually should have pressed whenever someone's talking and the next person has a question, so that we don't overlap. We just kind of flag it down. Sorry.
But yeah, so like the shape of it, obviously, like a goalie mask is not necessarily designed for body impacts or torsional impacts, maybe as much as a player mask. It's definitely designed to stop pucks. So yeah, I mean everything from the shape to then even the foams and things that we decide to use is more for puck impacts is really the focus of our protection, and less so maybe the torsional impacts or other types of things that a player helmet might be designed to absorb.
And do you think, yeah, can I follow on that for a second, Jamie? Do you think, um, like a lot of the scoring now, we used to be straight shooters. Like I was a shooter. I would never have thought about taking the puck down to the goal line to try to score off a goalie's head. But that's like a play now. Like, do you think that that's going to change the approach to what we need to do with the goalie cage? Because now you're getting more side impact as well, and like you can't make it, you know, look
Yeah.
like an old.
That was really my next question. But basically, building off that is obviously we're seeing like RBH very popular. It exposes the side of the head and the ear to the puck. That's always been an area where it just hurts the most to get hit. Is there any changes in mask design from either you guys or other companies that you see to address those areas? And then this two-parter there is, regardless of mask company or brand, is there always like a weak spot or a soft spots on a mask that companies just can't fix on engineering?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously that's a good point you guys said. Like we're always trying to evolve our equipment as the game evolves. And I think that is something we have been putting some upgraded foams in this area. Like this was kind of always an afterthought before, where it was just let's make sure that's comfortable and don't worry about it. Where we are putting some more of our higher quality foams there. But as you said, we can't really design it to have the same kind of deflecting shape on the side. So I think that's something that we're continuing to look into to see how we can continue to improve protection in that area. But I think, the weakest spot in a goalie helmet is really always going to be the back plate, just because of the way a goalie helmet's designed to be able to slip on and off easily. Obviously, there's still padding and still a shell, but because it moves more freely, that it is, going to be a bit of a weaker spot. But obviously, as a goalie, that's kind of the lowest risk area, unless you're getting knocked completely backwards. But
Case.
Same for Team Canada.
Um, Correct me if this one, right? We might have to edit this one out. We'll see how it goes. But years ago, there was like rumors of a big study going on between all the mask companies and like safety and all these different things. And then that kind of just like disappeared. Was that a rumor? Was that true? Like, did that get buried, or was that completely internal use only? Like, what happened to that?
I'll be honest, that was before my time, so I don't know a ton about it. I will say, like, um, that might have something to do with when the NHL started doing their testing, and they kind of have their own rating system, but they also, uh, I know they do testing a little bit different than at least we do, and I think some of the other mask companies. So that's kind of the tough thing is everyone rates things a little bit differently and tests things a little bit differently. And so it's hard to get kind of consistent answers. So I don't know that I have a good answer to that question.
With that certification process, what is that? So Bauer has their own internal testing. I mean, the NHL doesn't need to have their own. That would just be a general safety concern. But then if we look at, I don't know, is it different country to country, state to state? Like how does the certification work between, let's just say, a 960 into Canada and the United States and then into Europe?
Yeah, I'm not as fluent in the European process, but I know like here it's always hex certified. And I think there's another certification we do, but every single mask that we put out goes through the certification process. It has to do with frozen puck impacts and things like that, just to test for basic safety. But I know that our internal testing typically is more thorough than just the basic certification testing. That's actually relatively easy to pass. But we do go through it for all of our masks, obviously, just to ensure safety.
What does your testing process look like if it's not like proprietary? Whatever you can tell us.
Yeah, I it deals with frozen pucks and a puck cannon, and then impacts the different areas of the mask just to test for kind of any weak spots, like you had said, just to make sure that there's no failures consistent in a certain part of the mask, and then obviously we'll test the impact loads from the puck.
Do the Golden Masks have any like blunt force impacts testing? Like, basically larger than a puck, a knee coming across ice, body coming across ice, or is it strictly pucks across the board?
I mean, we'll still do some testing on that, but like I said, different than a player helmet, kind of puck impact is the main focus, and the main thing that we want to protect goalies from, and then everything else is great. But sometimes there can be, certain design elements or certain foams that are better for puck impact protection than maybe more of a body impact, and we tend to focus on the puck impacts as that's what happens more frequently.
Makes sense. Um, uh, Now, surprisingly, this episode is not sponsored by Bauer. You think that the whole podcast is the way that I talk for Bauer, yeah, podcast, but so the 960 like that is a classic design. It's a flagship design. So other companies have other masks. My thing that I was always intrigued me is, I would assume the majority of the goalies in the NHL across pro leagues and junior leagues use the 960. Other companies have different shapes. Does the shape, how much does the shape really matter in terms of mask design? Or is it all just, hey, as long as it's deflecting the puck and it has solid material, the rest, the differences are a more comfort-based kind of thing? Or is like there a true engineering design that says like, hey, this is the optimal way to protect?
Yeah, I mean a little bit of both. Obviously like, we have two mask shapes. So we have our profile line, which is that 940, 950, 960. Those all have the same shape and fit to them. And that's kind of our classic fit, our more narrow fit that most goalies prefer. And then we also have our NME line, which is a little bit of a wider fit, that is better for some goalies. It's a little bit of a lighter weight shell. We kind of tend to do a little bit more advanced materials on that one. And our 960 is a little bit more of our classic. So even within there, we have two different shells, but that's really more about fit and offering, multiple fit options to fit different goalies' head shapes. There's definitely something to be said about optimizing the shape to deflect pucks, as we were talking about. But then there's also stuff like within the chin area of, hey, how can we, lengthen the chin to protect, but also keeping it out of the way so it doesn't interfere with your chest protector and things when you're looking side to side. That's definitely part of it as well. And then just the look is part of it. Like, obviously protection's number one, but we also want the mask to look good. And I think our profile line has a very signature look to it. that goalies also like, and the performance backs it up.
Have you noticed, like as you're holding that cage up, there's a big focus when I was playing on, not being able to get a butt end through your cage. And it looks to me like the goalie cages are starting to get wider. I'm assuming that's to give better field of view and have less bars in the way of what we're looking at. Have those regulations changed over time, like more
No,
recently,
so that
or?
that's a big part of the certification process as well. So like any mask that we sell with a cat eye, even though the mask itself is the exact same, because it has the cat eye cage, is not technically sold as a certified mask, because the cage is not certified, because like you said, a stick can fit through it. But anything that has a certified wire or a straight bar does have to pass all those certification standards, so a stick can't pass through it. Now there are, kind of a rise in aftermarket cages, like cheater cages, that do have wider openings that a stick can fit through, that technically are not certified cages. But if have a ref or an opposing coach that doesn't really pay attention to it that closely or doesn't care, you can kind of get away with wearing those. But most of those are not certified, actually. They're just kind of look like it. And so, hence the term cheater cage on it.
Yeah, it's business for me.
How does how does is there like ever see I've always seen us have the pretty standard cage design. The Cali for 18 older and pros is easily the best, the widest openings, technically the most dangerous. The rest are kind of just like straight bar, and then it's the certified Cali, which is easily the ugliest design of all time. When does I don't know if you know this side or if you're privy to the information, but like, is it you guys put like how you guys put research dollars into figuring like optimizing the cages? Because it seems like they haven't changed in years. Is that just because it's working, why fix it? Or is there a better, what does that look like? Is cage designed? That's something that you guys think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are always looking at how can we, improve goalies' vision and help them see the ice better. But it's kind of, you know, most of the stuff we've done is everything is, as open as it can be to pass those certification standards, like we were saying. So I wouldn't say it's our primary focus is on new cage shapes, necessarily. I don't know that there's a whole lot else we can do to improve it while still meeting certification, but it's definitely something we're always looking into and trying new things. We've just yet to find something that works better than what we have that can pass certification or be safer than a cat eye maybe, but that we would still consider safe even if it's not certified. So we haven't really found anything better in the last, 15, 20 years, but it is something that we are looking into.
Whatever happens with the enemy very thin squared off bars, are those still you guys still make them? I think that Acre, that's the one you guys have.
Yeah, that's
That
Collins.
you guys still make that? Because like I feel like the pro style, like pro level mass all around the bars.
Yeah, we had played with those squared off bars, and just didn't really see much of an improvement with them. So we kind of moved away from them. But that was one of the things we tried. We had tried titanium, that didn't really prove to be any benefit. So stainless steel round wire has seemed to be the most durable material for us.
How do you guys determine, like outside of obviously you could test force, impact, all that stuff, safety, but when it comes to vision improvements, is that based on athlete feedback, or is there a process where you guys are able to get objective data with that?
Yeah, both. So we have a team of field testers that works with our research and development team. So we'll get their feedback on what they prefer and what they like. But then we'll also perform, reaction tests, whether that be with pucks, with juggling balls, or with like light pods and things like that. And so we'll actually have them just put a mask on off the ice and do various reaction tests and see what they perform best with. So we'll compare it with, no mask, with a cat eye, with a certified wire, and other things we might try to see if we can find any measurable improvements.
There are some newer wearable eye trackers now as well that you can mount to a cage that'll track where the goalie's looking with their eyes and into space. It'll project it into space. So you can see if your goalie's like on a puck, losing a puck, and that kind of thing. So there is some more tech out there now. I think it's a company from Holland has that. So we use it in ball, and I've seen some people use it in goalie training as well now.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm not sure if our R&D team has started using that or not, but it's interesting.
Do you guys does Bauer sell just chrome, or do you guys sell white, black, molds, those aftermarket cages of different colors?
We use chrome and white.
Have you noticed in your research a difference between cage fillers? I ended up switching to a white cage. Loved it. When you see goalies, sometimes they go black, chrome, they go like the Oreo, or it's white inside, black on the outside. Is there any research that shows one's better than the other, or is it just kind of whatever works?
Yeah, we haven't really noticed a measurable difference in color. I also prefer the white. I feel like the puck stands out a little bit more and you don't get any glare like you sometimes do with a chrome. But I mean, Andrei Vasilevsky uses a chrome cage, so who am I to argue with that? So yeah, we haven't noticed a measurable difference in colors, but I think it's more just, comfort level of the goalie and what is best to your eye on that.
Dr. Ickeman, I know we talked about it briefly, but based on your experience and or your professional expertise, color, no color, chrome, white, black.
Does it hold? I grew up wearing black cages, and I switched to white when the white came out, and I couldn't find the puck in my feet at all. Like it was like my visual system was turning that white bar into ice, and anything that was around the white bar was getting in my way. So I really had a hard time tracking pucks in my feet with my peripheral vision. Now goalie's going to be more centrally fixated on the puck, so you're going to be using your central vision more, where a player ideally would be using their peripheral vision more and try to keep their head up to see what's going on around them. So for me, when I went to the white cage as a player, I really struggled. Like I don't think I lasted 3 weeks with it, and I went and I bought another cage because I couldn't see the puck at all.
I feel like that would be the opposite. Like for me, the made the puck stand out more. But actually, you're not into it.
We're using different visual system, right? So like a goalie is going to be fixated on the puck. So you're going to be using your central vision. You're going to be making sure that your eyes are pointing straight at the puck. Like for me as a defenseman, if I'm coming around the crease, if I've got my head on the puck, I'm in big trouble, right? So I've got my head up. I'm using my peripheral vision, and the visual acuity, once you get just barely off center, drops to, like, you guys have had your eyes checked, right? So you can read as a goalie probably the smallest line on the chart or pretty close to that. By the time you get about 15, 20 degrees off center, the smallest letter you can see is the big E at the top of the chart. So your resolution really drops in your peripheral vision. So being able to see a puck, your visual system can get tricked a little bit. There are different cellular organizations in the peripheral vision where the visual system takes information from a bunch of surrounding cells, and it'll actually turn it into something other than what's visually present. So it tries to add things together to make a picture. And sometimes that kind of smoothing effect, like I'm guessing that's why I struggled with it so much. But really it's a preference thing, I think, like what your visual system's used to. My brain was used to ignoring the black cage and trying to find, where the puck was from that with no peripheral vision. But yeah,
I guess I have to see what the number if I guess yeah, a lot of preference, but majority of players probably use a black cage or a bubble. How come there's no bubble for goalie masks?
Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting for sure. I don't know. It's always one of those things. Like I feel like as a kid, it was like, oh, that'd be great. And then just assume it's probably not safe enough or something, but would definitely.
Lessons.
Yeah,
I think the main thing with the bubble is probably the fogging. Like if they could get rid of fogging in a bubble, like I always thought if somebody could come out with a goggle for NHL players where the goggle didn't fog up, where it had an airflow set up not to fog, that'd be the safest way to play because then you're not getting a stick under a half visor and things like that. But like if you could get the airflow down to where the lens didn't fog up, a bubble would be, other than the magnification piece of it, where it's hard to get it to. I talk about ball players wearing glasses to play ball. You get a couple of pieces, you get a block in your nose from that, and then the the path of the ball in the flight actually changes due to the curve of the lens. So having a bubble, if you were off center looking up here and something was coming in from over here, there's actually a magnification effect, and maybe that's part of the reason too.
Yeah. It's also tough because I mean, you look at like players every time they're on the bench, they're, like you said, fogging or even, snow and ice on the outside. They're cleaning their visor every time they go to the bench. Whereas a goalie, I mean, you might get the occasional stoppage and play, but you're on the ice the whole game. So you don't really have those opportunities to clean it off.
Yeah.
This is why it's good to have smart friends. You have answers every day. This one I don't want to put you in hot water, but is there a danger to getting a mask that's custom fit to your head? That one's always been like, I mean, I always been hesitant. I had a custom fit mask when I was younger. Once I got the Bauer, I kind of just wore Bauer the rest of my career, but I was always worried that I got a kind of big head. Like, what if they shape it weird and it's not going to be able to absorb force because whatever, I have a big forehead and therefore it's going to hit it and blow it up. Like, I know they go through, do you think, well, one, do they go through same safety standards? And two, like, is there a risk to that?
I don't know if I would necessarily say there's a bigger risk to getting a custom mask. But to your point, depending on who you buy a custom mask through, it's probably not going to be certified, especially if it's custom to the point they're custom making the shell, it won't be because each new like model that you make or new shell shape needs to be certified individually. So they're not going to certify one just for a person. Not to say that means that it's necessarily an unsafe shell, but it won't be certified. And so, I mean, it depends. Like, obviously, fit is one of the most important aspects to protection. That's why we have our two different fits. Like I said, you don't want an enemy if you have a skinny face and it's going to be wobbling around. That's not going to provide you with optimal protection. But yeah, I mean, it depends. My bigger thing would be looking at, the materials of that custom mask of like, yes, fit is absolutely important, but also is it just a fiberglass shell and shoot foam? Or are they using, upgraded foams? Are they using more advanced materials in that shell to help with dampening as well? We found that from most goalies that we've spoke to, our profile line fits very well, or if it doesn't, the NME does. And so, kind of like you said, if they've tried a Bauer and they've liked it, they haven't really felt the need for a custom mask. Um, but yeah, so unsafe, I don't know, but most likely it's not going to be certified at least. So depends on how comfortable you feel with that.
Interesting. So at every custom mask, therefore, isn't technically certified through.
Again, it depends on the level of custom. If you're doing the full face wood,
Mold and stuff.
yeah, then yeah, that is not going to be certified because they'll have to go through that certification process for every individual one they make.
Yeah, I feel that. That's interesting. Yeah, I had another follow-up question, but I totally forgot because I
Also one.
yeah, I just seen that mask was technically certified. I wasn't sure how. Wait, what? Isn't that like a legal liability?
To
Certified.
it depends on the league you're playing in. Like if you're playing in a USA Hockey or Hockey Canada league, you need to be wearing a certified mask technically. But if you're playing in a pro league or you're playing in men's league, you can wear whatever you want pretty much. It's up to the league to approve what models are allowed in play.
Have you guys seen any difference in wear down on the masks? You know, the everybody gets their mask painted or wrapped now. Like, is there much difference between the paint and the wrap as far as long term durability? Are there, how important is it to have somebody who's got a lot of experience in mask painting who understands the proper chemicals and how not to break down the shell of a mask by painting it?
Yeah, haven't noticed a lot like large scale as far as, is painting bad or are wraps bad or better. But I would definitely say, it's important to go to someone who knows what they're doing. Partially like you said of what kind of paint they're going to be using. But even bigger, more for the foams on the inside, whether they're going to be, taking foam out or covering it up. That would be what I'd be more worried about, either not being reinstalled properly, which would be a major, major risk, or even just if it's not covered properly, that foam is going to be easier to break down than the shell of the mask.
Now I know using a third party foam, I've seen similar to like any sort of tech device. As soon as you take it apart, you void the warranty and the safety. Third party foams have been pretty popular among the goalie community. When in your experience, this isn't just to disparage or pump any of them, but if you're so realistic, like, is there an advantage to a third party foam, or is that just all how does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, if you want, it would be how does it feel to you? But obviously, our masks are designed with the shell and the foam combined, and that's how we test it. And so I think, starting to mess with components outside of how the mask has been tested is always going to be a bit of a risk.
And then with I did a big one. What was the company they made Greedful? Wasn't Oh, I can't remember what it was. They made the green inside foam. It was really popular for probably like 2012 to 16. But part of it was they got rid of the chin cup, and instead there was just continuous foam. Um, Outside of just comfort, does the chin cup offer support, like true support, or is that just like comfort keeps the head in there? Or no, I don't mean support. Sorry, I mean like protection.
Yeah, so like the foam in front would be like what we would, call like a chin sling. And there's some pros that use that. And they like it because it gets the mask a bit of a closer fit. And some find it to be more comfortable feel. Um, but there are some risks with that, which is why we don't do it normally. So, the chin cup itself is going to provide a little bit of absorption, especially on chin impacts. And it helps also keep, your teeth a little bit further away from the front of the mask. Where some goalies that wear a chin sling, because your face sits so close to it, they like that close feel. But they can, get chipped teeth or sometimes damage on pucks or impacts to that lower chin area because you are sitting so close to the front of the mask.
I mean, one of the sources of concussions too can be your jaw coming up and in, and like if there's an impact, probably at that level of mass, not going to be from a puck, but maybe from somebody skating through the crease, because goalies never leave their creases at all. But somebody like coming through and catching you, I think there'd be probably a little bit more risk with that type of setup.
Yeah. And one thing too, we've upgraded on our latest mask line. So our 960 from last year, and then our new 950 and 940 that come out this year is actually on our chin cup. There's more of an elastic to it. So I find it's a lot more comfortable where you don't need to kind of get that chin cup just exactly right to rest where you want. You can kind of over tighten it a little bit and then it'll fit naturally. But then, as you said too, if you take an impact, you're going to get a little more stretch with that too.
Let's see. Yeah, it seems to be the way that we've kind of been going. And Dr. Jody, correct me if I'm wrong, but when it comes to concussion support, like obviously concussion is when your brain hits the skull. So the more that is it better, Dr. Eger, to have that tight support, or is it better to have like a little bit more floating support of the cranium so that your head is moving and the brain doesn't move as much? Or am I thinking that backwards?
Well, I think there are two approaches to it. Like if you look at the React shell, like where the shell of the hockey player helmet will actually like rotate a little bit and absorb some of the torsional force when there's a contact. I think that can be important for that type of contact, but also like having the proper foam. The foam is the impact absorbing. If you get somebody like my size coming through the crease, it doesn't matter what kind of foam you get. Like I'm gonna knock out your neck and your like you can protect the head as much as you want, but your body is gonna go flying, right? And your head, you don't actually have to have a physical hit into something to get that concussive type event. You can be just even jostled or dropped, or if anybody's ever jumped down too many steps at once and landed wrong, you can still get a bit of a concussive type event and get your bell rung a little bit. So, like, I think the focus of the masks is probably more like impact, direct impact cushioning, and trying to get as much of that impact absorbed before it gets to the head itself. And like you say, it's a little different when you've got a big body coming through than a puck.
Yeah, that makes sense. Couple more things, Corey. We steer away from mass for towards the end. Does Bauer still do custom chins? Because they used to do custom chins on their 960s. You set like a really long one, a really short one. Is that still a thing, or is that like pros only kind of model, or not? Oh no, at all.
No, even our pros wear our standard shells.
Okay, what'd you say? Why? I don't know if you know. It's probably well, definitely before your time at Bauer. But if anyone had talked to, like, how come you guys moved away from off right now? Like, they extended chin.
Yeah, it was before my time, so I can't give a definitive answer, but I think most people just tend to prefer our standard 960 shape. I think the longer chin, tends to get a little bit more interference, especially with larger chest protectors nowadays. And so most goalies prefer a little bit more of that streamlined look. Like you even see with, some of the goalies that wear custom masks in the NHL, like some of them have really short chins on their masks.
And then, Dr. Aiken, if you have any mask questions, I'll open it up to you in a second. But before we move on to some other gear, because I really want to talk about Connect skates. Be sure stop talking about them. Now, to be fair, did you send me a free pair? Yes, but they're very good. Um, this is a personal opinion for you. Dangler or no dangler?
It's tough because I as soon as I stopped playing high school hockey, I took off the dangler, and I so much prefer playing without a dangler because I hate it banging around, but I actually just a couple weeks ago put one back on because 'cause I'm like, the last thing I wanna do is take a puck to the net in Sunday night men's league, and, like, that's just the worst way to get hurt, so I prefer playing without one, but I definitely feel safer wearing one.
Yeah, the men's league guys forget, like, we're still like, I probably still shoot, like, 85, right? Like, if I catch you in the throat with that, it's game over, right? So, like, I see guys playing with a half visor, it's, "Oh, you can't wear a visor even, it's not cool." I'm like, "Dude," like, I've seen guys have $10,000 of dental work and guys, like, lose eyes and stuff like that, and I don't wanna see
I have taken a couple pucks to the throat in practice even with a dangler, so probably for the best I keep one on. I'm not good at keeping my chin down either, so
Yeah, I'm a big believer in danglers. I've said it probably a bit. Like, if you don't for a dangler, you're kind of stupid. And you know what the kids say? It's bad style. That's what they say to me. And I go,
I just would say I don't even think they look bad, I just hate the sound they make when you're
I never noticed it. It's like when you get in the zone, you don't like notice those things.
That's true. I definitely I notice it, like, in warm-ups and things, but in a game, I can't say it bothers me at all.
I could see it giving you a proprioceptive effect, like, if you're turning and it catches a little bit, that might throw you very slightly. So I could see why the elite
Because don't wear it too, right? Like, some kids will wear it like down below, like the into the below the line of their clavicle into their sternum. I mean, when I wore mine, I measured it. It would be, I believe it was 2.5, or 2.5 fingers below my chin, just for like a little bit of support. Um, I know, like, my goalies in Muskegon are doing this. I remember, who was it? Anders Lindback, who, well, punched my face in one American. He would do like clip on. So he had a clip and he'd wear it in practice. For games, he wouldn't wear it. And to me, that's the compromise I try to get with my athletes, where it's like, listen, if you're gonna take a puck to the net or neck, it's probably rather happy no, but in the game, you're also getting 30 shots versus 350 shots. So I'm a big fan. So if you're listening, go with the little clip-ons. Yeah, we're gonna break a little bit, but it is a safety first thing. All right, I want to talk about the Connect states very briefly. This is going to be your sales pitch. Well, it's all been one big Bauer sales pitch, but this had to continue. So, how did that design start, and why are they so good? Because like I was skeptical when he said that to me. I was like, he's kind of lipped them, put them on, and I was like, they feel okay. But then I started seeing them, and I'm like, this is good. I feel these feel amazing, and I'm moving better, and everything feels better, and my knees still feels bad, my hips still feels bad. Like what was the catalyst to starting that design process?
Yeah, I mean, any new product that would come out like that always comes down to, what do we hear the most from goalies as far as what they wish their equipment could do, or what they aren't happy about with their current equipment. And goalies had always liked our goalie skates. We do very well with our goalie skates, but the biggest thing we would hear is as boots have gotten stiffer, and we still think there's a good reason to make boots stiffer for better performance, but goalies felt they couldn't get as much depth in their stance, or they felt more pain, in the top of their feet or their ankle when they would try to get more depth in their stance. Or you would see goalies, undoing an eyelet or two at the top, but then they feel like they don't have as much stability. So we were trying to figure out a solve for more movement in the stance, especially with how deep some goalie stances are now, without sacrificing that stiffness and that performance. And so that's kind of when we, looked into other technologies, even like, some older skates that we had maybe made, or, ski boots. Obviously, everyone says they look like ski boots. Like, we won't hide it. We took a lot of inspiration from ski boots and how they have that built-in hinge. And so we kind of looked into, okay, how can we take some of those technologies that exist elsewhere in other industries and apply it to what we know about how to make a hockey skate. And so, it took a lot of testing to really fine tune it, but ultimately got to something we're very proud of and very happy with, in allowing for more movement. And it really was designed for performance. But that was kind of the nice benefit we found after the fact. It was as goalies tried these on, like you said, is a lot of goalies have said, oh, my hips, my knees, my ankles, just I feel a lot less stress wearing these skates, and feel like I can move better with less pain. And that wasn't even the initial intent, but obviously something that was very great to hear as more goalies have been trying them.
Yeah, I think, and from or for the listeners, from I think I talked about this in the Connect review video on YouTube. From a performance standpoint, if you look at explosivity and stuff, there's a lot of research that says like the stiffer your Achilles, the more powerful you're going to be. So in theory, a stiffer glutes, the more power you're going to get. When it comes to force absorption, having a little bit more flexibility with that, you're going to reduce the amount of joint force that goes through the cut chain. One thing I did like about the Connects is I found that they didn't sacrifice power for support or support for power. Yeah, and vice versa. I know it's sizing. You guys only go full sizes. There's no 11 and a half, 10 and a half. Question I got from a few parents was, should I size up or size down? Outside of comfort, obviously comfort's going to be the biggest one. Do you typically have a recommendation, or does Bauer have a recommendation if it's better size up or size down?
Yeah, typically I would say size down. So like if you're, a 9 point anything, I would typically recommend a 9. Now maybe if you're, like 9.75 with a really wide foot and like you could wear an 8, go ahead and size up. But typically we recommend sizing down. They the Gorilla mid shell that's used in like the top end, so the Connect and the Connect 2, is a very, very thermoformable shell. And what I always tell people is like, a normal skate you're gonna bake for 3-4 minutes. The Connects you bake for 11, because that material is so thermoformable. It actually expands in the oven almost a full skate size. So it's going to expand. And then as it cools down, it'll contract around the shape of your foot. So then that's why, if you go into a retailer, they should have foam shims and things too. So if you've got a, trouble spot on your ankle or somewhere on your foot, you can always kind of add in some extra depth. So you'll have those pain spots, less stressed. But yeah, the whole shell will expand a lot in the oven. So even though a 9 might feel really, really tight if you try it on before you bake it, if you're a 9.5, just trust that it's going to expand in the oven and should work for your foot. But, as always, talk to your local retailer and they can help you with that. But I would always typically err on the size of sizing down.
I'm trying to think if there's any connect questions. I just recommend everyone go try it on. And I think the biggest thing when I wore them was I wore my skates super tight. I just wasn't great. My ankles are not the most flexible, those bolts, so just tightening everything up felt more stable. I think the thing too is when everyone talks about, oh, you're going to get massive increases in dorsiflexion and stuff. I actually didn't really notice a major difference. It just felt more smooth in my motion. I felt it was a little bit looser in the ankle at the top of the ankle, but I could always tighten it up if I wanted to. But it just gave a lot more fluidity with that. Last thing, tuck the plug, and just for general listeners, because we don't talk much about gear under as we should. This isn't the goalie gear one, but there's a lot of science that goes into gear. And you guys just released the Flylight, and as of today's recording, today's Wednesday the 16th. Yesterday, that's the debuted the Flylights NHL game. It's all over by social media. Outside of the cool, the new ability to customize a lot more, which was one of the biggest critiques people have about Bauer, was things weren't as customizable in terms of so what new technological or engineering things did you guys have to your gear to step it up from the I guess it would have been step up from the Vapor line or the Hyperlate line?
Yeah. So you said it's replacing the Hyperlate 2 in our lineup. So you still have that foam molded skin that we've had in our pads since the 1S. And that combined with our pad core is going to give you those really big rebounds and that lightweight that we're known for. And it's going to feel still pretty similar to the Hyperlate 2. The big changes are going to be we changed the boot shape a little bit of it. So you'll notice the boot looks a little bit thicker than a Hyperlate 2. But we did that to kind of fill in that cavity area on top of your skate. So the boot sits more naturally there and stays more connected. So when you get down into that deep stance, the pads can actually move with you instead of sliding off your foot. We have a new strap system on the back too, that is just for better leg connectivity and more adjustability. And then the knee stack on it now is actually completely flat. We don't have that kind of step down notch like we used to. So it's a little bit more stable and larger landing surface and smoother sliding.
And the budgies, skate laces. This is always a hot. For some reason, people are gonna love this. And there was a few people that said bungees were worse for your ankle. There was some made up study. They said they studied it. There was actually no study. I went to the depths of the internet trying to find it because I was curious. It doesn't exist. However, have you guys done internal research on bungees versus skate laces? To me, I don't care as long as you get a toe lock. I don't care what you use. But is there any research that was done by Bauer to show one is superior to the other, or if one causes more stress on the ankles, anything like that?
I don't know of any official studies we've conducted on them. That's been more of just, player perception feedback on what feels better. Obviously, if you want the least amount of stress, you just need to build in a giant lead with skate lace, which is what you see, a lot of pros doing, but then you don't have as much control over the pad. That's when you kind of see the pad sitting off to the side of the foot or whatever and not sitting straight up. So, if you want the most freedom of mobility, that's going to be the way to do it. And if you like that, that's fine. You can always just swap on a skate lace or order them custom with a skate lace. But bungees for us is kind of that middle ground where you can get that little bit tighter, more connected feel while still having some give. So that's why, all of our pads will come with a bungee. And if you want to put a skate lace on it, that's fine. I have no problem with that. but it's really about personal preference. I still prefer a bungee because I do like a little bit more of that connected feel, but need some movement out of it. But I know a lot of, especially higher level goalies still like the skate lace. I also just hate tying skate laces, especially now that I use Connect, so I don't have to tie my skates. I don't want to have to tie my pads. But that's kind of to each their own and whatever feels best to you. But I agree, especially if you are going to use a skate lace, at least just make sure you build in somewhat of a lead so you can, lock into your RVH and so you aren't putting too much stress on your ankles.
We gotta bring back the Canadian Tire one piece where you just suit or you just pull on all your gear. You don't tie anything. It's just l- I don't know. I don't know, Elliot, if you know that one. If you grew up in Canada during the 2000s, you saw that commercial and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Last question before we do our parting shots. I know I was talking to a guy actually this past weekend who used to do a lot of gear design for Warrior. And one of the things Warrior boasts is like they patent all their stuff. Does Bauer have patents on their gear and it show like what's one or two things that's like a patented thing that Bauer does that other companies can't do in their gear?
Yeah, we do have some. Like the main one would be our knee block bracket and our calf bracket are kind of what I think really separates us apart. And those are patented. So, our Stabila Flex and our Stabila Slide knee blocks are actually integrated into the core of the pad. So it's going to give you more direct feedback. So, like when you're driving down, you're not pulling down your knee block, which is then pulling down your pad. You're actually essentially driving through the core of the pad because it's all connected through. And then it also gives you much more stability and a better seal when you're on the ice, because you're not going to get that front lip of your pad popping up like you see on a lot of goalies, because that knee block can't move that much independently of the face of the pad. And so I think most goalies that have tried Bauer, especially like a Bauer Supreme, where it's that stiffer bracket, you feel really really stable when you're moving around on the ice, and you have a really solid seal. And so I think that's one of the things beyond that, that foam skin that everyone knows us for, that bracket technology that we have, I think is something that really separates us apart and really makes Bauer feel different.
All right, last question. So we usually end each episode. We call it Iron Shot. Could be anything you want to be a sales pitch. Mine was your sales pitches. Could be a shout out. Could be anything. I don't know. I'll go first, and so that way buy you guys some time to think of everything.
You know why he goes first? It's so he can get his idea in, and then we get stuck trying to work around it.
Oh yeah. However, I think I gotta find it on my phone. Bauer should come back out with the Total One pad with the flex inserts where you could change the flex. Yeah, to my flex. I thought I was living in some sort of Mandela effect where that was only I thought of it, I was saying, and everyone else was like, oh, it wasn't actually how it was. Bauer needs to bring that back. You could change the flexibility, and I'm assuming they got rid of it because it just wasn't stable and it didn't make a lot of sense. But you can buy the inserts on Sideline Swap, and to be buying them and just having them as memorabilia. So that's
You can still change your flex in custom, Jamie.
yeah. What if I want to change it between periods? That's sort of what they're shooting it pretty soft. I need to have a little bit of stiffer cotton. I want to be able to control it. But I think that was a wild thing. But I respect the innovation. Didn't last long ago. All right. Dr. A. Barrow's Prairie Shop.
I would just, you know, advise parents and even like adults, like overprotect. Like if you're not sure if you got the money, if it's not a big difference money wise, upgrade your gear, upgrade your mask. The more protection, like I get 8, 9, 10 year olds with concussions all the time. Like it's we want to try and avoid those things so that we can get through. You know, it impacts so much more than just playing hockey. Protect your teeth. You know, protect your throat. Gear up would be my parting shot.
to that current. I'll give you a sneak peek into what's coming out in June. We kind of talked about our mask lineup. And I was saying the 940 and the 950 are getting refreshed this year. That 950 mask this year for the first time will be available in junior as well. So some of those younger, higher end kids, we don't want them getting into a senior mask for better protection if it doesn't actually fit them well. So now, junior 950 will be available for those high end kids that want the best mask protection possible.
Now I'll throw a second part of shot too. Yeah.
Keep it going. I'll just push my time.
No, it's like sometimes good things happen and it makes guys feel sick and they can't come into a morning podcast the day after. And it's our year. It's we're setting
Since Obi scored, since Obi scored, I kind of have stopped paying as much attention to the NHL. It's very unlikely that is the least year. It's been the least, close to the least year for the past 50-something years. So
goaltending, right? Was the best
Montreal did the class? No, yep. Is Montreal going to make the class?
I think they will.
Okay. Well, my money's on Montreal then. Actually, my money's probably on Florida. They're usually good there. All right, Elliot, your party shot before Dr. Again us with this stupid lead talk.
I would just put out another tease for upcoming stuff in June. Keep an eye out for our new knee guard. As much as I love everything that we've put out, the Flylight line that we talked about is awesome. Our new pro knee guard might be the piece of gear I'm most excited about this year. So keep an eye for those to come out. I think they're pretty sweet.
Be excited when you pass focused like a true gear nerd. Well, Elliot, thank you very much for coming on. Dr. Dakin, thank you very much. I know we didn't talk about keep the mask and stuff, but if Bauer does want to sponsor this podcast, we can set something up. But I appreciate it. For everyone who's looking for sports business trade bombings, please visit more with Milton Vision Optometry or just Milton?
Milton Vision Optometry.
Yeah. The longest URL in the entire world. The link will be in the show notes. I know a few people have reached out. Actually, a lot of people have reached out. If you're in the Toronto GTA area, stop in, use code Goalie Science, or say you came for the Goalie Science podcast. Well, yeah. Elliot, where people have Bauer-related questions, what is the best way to ask those questions?
I would always start at your local retailer. They're usually pretty knowledgeable and know their stuff. But if they can help you, you can always reach out to our .com team. Just reach out on our website. They're also very knowledgeable, and if they have anything they can't answer, they'll usually escalate it to me, and I can get the answers.
That sounds good. Thanks again, Dr. Akerman. Thanks again. I'll see everyone next.